Yeah, first of all, yeah, thank you very much, Emil, for such a introduction. And I'm really honored to be just talking to you. And one thing I would like to appreciate very much, the fact that we have been dealing with the receiving end of the policies. But today we are talking with the producers of the policies and laws, which for me is a very important shift. I hope at a certain point, we'll be dealing also with the political parties, you know, because the whole thing debate is about the politics who are actually. The way I would like to, I will be sharing with you a conversation because you are well informed and there's no way we can be able to say this new thing we are going to tell you, but to share our experiences together. Now, I think what I'm going to talk about, I will do the following. One, I will try to shape what is really the problem in managing security resources. And by asking that question to see the magnitude of the problem. And then I want to pose a question, but whose responsibility in mismanagement or good management of security resources? And then I will focus more on the parliamentarians, the role, and the tools available. And I think this will shape our discussion. First, you can see from this map is about the risk of corruption in security sector, in managing resources in security sector. The red one, a very high one. And this is a research conducted for about 87 countries across the world. So it's not about Africa. And I will give you some of the findings of this research. What came out from this research is that there's a pattern that the security is beset by corruption sector. Corruption is dominant. It's not only in Africa, it's across. And based on this research, about 2/3 of these countries, they have insufficient control over the security sector. 85 of them, they lack effective scrutiny of security resources. And in fact, it is only 20% that are being seen to be having effective oversight in the security sector. Most of the African countries, as you can see, they are either in a critical or high level of risk of corruption. Only few countries, let me name them. South Africa is in a moderate level of risk of corruption. And countries like Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, in a high level of corruption, risk of corruption. The rest, critical. So this is the magnitude of the problem facing the world, but indeed Africa. Now, so what is the result? Is a very clear or massive illicit financial flow. But I want to relate this one to the whole lot of, just look at that figure. This one actually is 2017. That amount of money getting out of Africa is even exceeding the amount of aid, the development aid Africa is receiving. And this is a result of corruption, and especially in the procurement. And I want to highlight a few points on this. One, first, about 50% of the countries globally, they don't have an oversight over the procurement. And it is actually so dominant in Africa. And that's why the importance of resource management in security sector becomes a very central to the debate, and especially the role of the. The good news is that the trail of expenditure in Africa, military expenditure, is going down. But that will not tell us the total picture. But one of the very important things, it is this military expenditure. I will be talking about military as a proxy for the security, so that you can see the same pattern actually happening in. One of the good things is the way countries report the military expenditure. In fact, there's a commitment by the United Nations that the countries should be able to report their military expenditure as a way of confidence building and building trust between the nations. Apparently, it is only in 2015 to 2017, 0 country. Even earlier it was better. Almost about 6 countries managed to report. But regionally, even they don't share the reporting of expenditure. And you know the importance of expenditure is your intention. Because the moment you declare and you report your expenditure, your neighboring countries or others will see what is your intention and your sincerity. And that is why it is a measure of confidence building. So it's a very low reporting of the year of military expenditure. But the good news is that Africa countries, they have started now reporting their military expenditure internally, especially on the website, which is a very positive in relation to other countries. So it's a good news for Africa. But then, despite the fact that there's a very huge resources going to security sector, we are not seeing improvement in the level of security in Africa. And that is raising a very big question, what is happening? My country, South Sudan, almost before the war, they were spending about 60% of the budget going to the national security. I mean to the security sector. And what happened? There was a crowding out of investing in other sectors. And that created a problem that resulted in Southern Sudan sliding into conflict. So managing resources is extremely important in providing not stability, but even conflict in the countries. And as you can see clearly, there's not much improvement in Africa as a continent, except with some exception in this context. But then what are the drivers of this high level of risk of corruption in Africa? There are 2 things, I categorize them into 2. There are some structural challenges, and then there's something to do with the parliamentarian, and I will come to this issue later on. One, there's a big debate that sometimes we have inherited certain institutions from the colonial era, we did not actually reflect them to our context. It has been found a system, presidential system or parliamentarian system, do make a lot of difference in fighting corruption generally. And in fact, parliamentarian systems seem to be even more effective in reducing the risk of corruption. And there are a lot of debate about that one. The second one, the electoral system also. It has been found a mixed system is more effective in reducing the risk of corruption. But the most important thing, and I think this is what Emil said, the political freedoms has a huge impact in reducing the risk of corruption. So these are some of the things is very important for some of you because you are the one having the power to amend the Constitution to fit what can you do differently and what can you learn from other experiences. But then there's a very big question. Who is responsible by having this high level of risk of corruption in the security sector? Can we say these are the leaders in the security sector? Or can we say actually the political leadership and executive? Or can we say lack of rule of law, the judiciary? Or can we say actual parliamentarians, so the legislation? The issue of separation of power, I know you know it more than anybody. But sometimes it can make a lot of difference in fighting corruption in the security sector. And I would say you have two important powers as parliamentarians. The power to legislate and the power to investigate. And these two powers are exceptionally for you, no in other organs of the state, of the government. And that's bringing me to the question then, if you fail to discharge this function, the result is what you have seen. By the way, let me give you the encroachment to the powers of other organs of the state. It's not only the executive encroaching or the judiciary encroaching, even parliamentarians do sometimes encroach to the functions. And one example, Consistency Development Fund. I think some of you have it. A lot of debate. Because what you are doing, actually, you are getting into the functions of the executive. And a lot of research has been done that this CDF may not be effective. It may be even reducing your oversight function. It's another debate I will leave it later on. I will give you my example of my country. So I'm talking about who is the responsibility. The most important thing, the power of the purse. The power of the purse, when we talk about managing resources, it is who is really responsible for this, for the purse of the state. And the power of the purse is nothing except to impose taxes and then to guide the spending. Taxes, how to collect taxes, and how to spend these taxes for the public goods. And it is a very clear case. If then you are in charge of the purse, there's no way you can say actually the corruption we are seeing in the security sector is because of leaders in the executive, is because leaders in the security sector. It is the way you discharge your power of the purse. And I want to change that debate. I know, I don't want to say, oh, the responsibility of corruption in Africa is because of the lack of you exercising your power on the purse. But I can say you have a lion's share in reducing the risk of corruption in the security sector. Now, what are the tools? Thus, I want to highlight some few challenges why the parliamentarians may not be effective in reducing the risk of corruption in security. One, security sector is always treated differently. Always treated differently. We have one of the most important principles in budgeting is the principle of contestability. That all the institutions should be treated equally. But what is dominant in Africa is that security and defense are treated differently. They're exceptional. The second one, facing most of the parliamentarians, is that security is seen to be too technical. You don't have ability and skill to understand it. And that is a big challenge to you. The third, it is a very scary sector. So you want to shy away from it. And the last one, the culture of secrecy. These are 4 key challenges facing you in overseeing the management of security resources in Africa. What can you do? 4 tools are very important. Besides, around your power to legislate and your power to investigate. 1, you need to revisit the laws in security sector. My country, there was a law of National Intelligence, Security and Intelligence Act. And what happened is that all the power of the police were given in the law passed by the parliament to the security. Even for you to arrest, to investigate, were taken from the police to the security. And these are things passed by the parliament. So your power to legislate, you can make a lot of difference of this issue of certain institutions are exceptional. The second one, this idea of it is too technical, you can easily avoid it by relying on experts. And you have that one, because you need not to know all these, the security thing. The third tool, I see you need really to invest interest in security sector. It's so scary, it's so what, but if you invest, develop interest in this sector, you can make a lot of difference in the management of resources. And the last one is the secrecy, this vetting criteria, and then you use anonymous reporting so that you can avoid. These are 4, but we can discuss more. But let me go specifically today to what is happening in budgeting cycle. As you could see from this budgeting cycle, the outer one is the normal process that you have been doing, the development, budgeting cycle. It's a very normal process for all the sector. You have been dealing with this, the non-security sector. And the inner one is the process within in the security sector. But let me highlight a few things. One important cycle is when you are setting macro physical objectives. It is very simple for the non-security sector. But when you come to the security sector, setting those objectives, usually the whole debate is, we know development. Whose development? Development is for the citizen. When you come to security, whose security? It's still a debate, is that if you see security is not for the citizen, then we tend not to engage in it. And that is why in this area of setting objective for the security must be guided by policies. And involvement of citizens at this stage is extremely important. And then the security policies, security policies and strategy are quite important. And we have shifted the debate that the citizen must be the center of such debate. Second, budget preparation and allocation of resources. Appropriation bill. This is in your hand. And when appropriation bill is discussing security issues, then you shy away. Few of you will go to that sector. And when it's happening, there's a lot of problems because you are wearing up almost 3 hats. First, you are representing your people. Second, you are representing the party. And the third, you are also representing the constituency. So that is creating a lot of problem in this sector. Then you go to another cycle, is the implementation of this one. It is extremely important. This is where you may need to use experts in this cycle. And then the monitoring, and then the evaluation. I just want to give you, but I just want to shift the debate. But just to conclude, just to highlight in the budget process, what is the problem? Budget planning and formulation. This is a big area, the culture of secrecy, the international practice, and what is happening in the security sector. Culture of secrecy. And when you miss this formulation and planning, you miss then you'll be misallocating the resources. The second one, legislative scrutiny. It is normal practice in the other sectors, but in security, it is still a big problem. And in budget discussion, it's the same. The culture of secrecy is dominating in monitoring and reporting, and even this issue of external audit. Let me conclude with some key takeaways. I'm just saying, well, let us start the debate. And I hope we'll be asking more questions. It is important to highlight these 2 points. You are core in changing things in Africa, and particularly in the security sector, especially managing the resources. These 2 powers are extremely important. Power of legislation and power of investigation. And if we exercise them properly, I think we'll be doing a lot of service to the people of Africa. The last is some of the tools available for you to manage some of these challenges, the 4 challenges that I said. Let me stop here and thank you very much.